What crazy stuff happened in the year 2001 that got overshadowed by September 11th? The front page story in a lot of papers on the morning of September 11th was about a Houston mom who drowned her 5 children in a bathtub. American Airlines Flight 587, an Airbus A300 crashed in Queens, New York 2 months after September 11th. It was the second deadliest aviation accident in U.S. history, and not well remembered. Congressman Gary Condit having an affair with 24-year-old intern, Chandra Levy, who went missing and was later found murdered. A hang glider accidentally crashed into the Statue of Liberty. A huge investigation revealed that the McDonald's monopoly campaign was frauded since 1989 and had almost no legitimate winners. One guy was giving winning pieces to friends and family, and later the mafia. When this broke, it was mere weeks before September 11th, so it got quickly overshadowed. Edit, double-checking my facts, it went to trial on September 10th, wild. George W. Bush issued an executive order banning federal funding for research on any new embryonic stem cell lines, going forward. He interrupted evening TV and did a live address to the nation from the Oval Office to announce it. This was on August 10th. His next address to the nation was on September 11th. I lived where the anthrax hit in 2001, just days after September 11th. They had to close down our post office, and for weeks there was no mail. Then finally bills came radiated and in plastic bags. You couldn't open any of the mail, it was just stuck together. And this was back in the days before you could pay bills online. Hainan Island incident in April 2001. A Chinese jet clipped a U.S. aircraft off the coast of China. The jet crashed in the sea, and the U.S. aircraft landed in China. First major geopolitical mess of George Bush's presidency. Gave the world a somewhat major incident. I got briefly concerned as a teenager. I saw a Dateline episode about a woman from upstate New York who went missing on September 11th, and there wasn't enough manpower to investigate because of it. Found a link. I recall the dot-com bust being in full swing. Lots of companies going under and layoffs. Mad cow disease, Michael Jordan coming out of retirement for the second time, Aaliyah plane crash. September 7, 2001, U.S. government announces they won't break up Microsoft as a monopoly. Forgotten in Rumsfeld's speech about the missing funds, the clearest and most important transformation is from a bipolar Cold War world where threats were visible and predictable, to one in which they arise from multiple sources, most of which are difficult to anticipate, and many of which are impossible even to know today. Also, the purpose of the speech was to cut military spending and shift some military control of logistics and base infrastructure to the private sector. The murder of Henryk Sywiak. He's known as the last person killed in NYC on September 11, 2001, right before midnight, and it wasn't related to the terror attacks. He was gunned down in Brooklyn when he mistakenly went there to start a new job. His murder remains unsolved. Wasn't that Chandra Levi lady taking up most of the headlines at the time? System of a Down's Toxicity was released on September 4th. Slayer's God Hates Us All released on September 11th. George Carlin records an album on September 10th called I Kinda Like It When a Lot of People Die. In the set's 10-minute closer, Uncle Dave, Carlin explains why he likes big, fatal disasters with lots of dead people, asking, you know what's the best thing I can hear on television? We interrupt this program, you know the worst thing I can hear? No one was hurt. I'm always rooting for a really high death toll, that's why I like natural disasters. An earlier joke in the set includes reference to Osama bin Laden and an exploding airplane. Needless to say, the album was shelved until about 2016. The movie Zoolander flopped, relatively speaking, at the box office, because it came out right after September 11th. It was a huge year for movies. LOTR and Harry Potter debuted. The first Shrek, Planet of the Apes, Ocean's 11, Legally Blonde, A Beautiful Mind, Black Hawk Down, The Fast and the Furious, Monsters Incorporated, Princess Diaries, Moulin Rouge, and Training Day, and more. The Boston Globe had all the information ready to release uncovering the rampant pedophilia being covered up by the Catholic Church. After September 11th, they decided to wait to release it. Mariners won 116 games. The disappearance of Sneha Phillip. Officially, she's listed as a victim of 9/11, but opinions vary as to what really happened. Asterisk she had rushed to the scene and was killed while trying to help victims. She was a doctor. Asterisk she was in the WTC on unrelated business, possibly having breakfast at the Windows on the World restaurant, when the attacks occurred. Asterisk she was murdered nearby in an incident unrelated to the terrorist attacks, and any evidence of the crime, as well as her remains, was lost in the rubble and by diversion of law enforcement resources. Asterisk she chose to use the confusion of the day to disappear and start a new life elsewhere. She was known to be having difficulties in both her personal and her professional life. In March 2001, Drew Bledsoe signed a then-record 10-year, $0.3 million contract. During the second game of the season, September 23, he got hit so hard he almost died. His replacement went on to become the greatest QB of all time. There were 3 separate shark attacks in the USA that summer, leading Time magazine to dub it the Summer of the Shark. There was a ton of news coverage about it. Steve Austin aligned himself with Vince McMahon. My mom died on September 8, 2001. My 10th birthday was September 6, 2001. Needless to say, I could not have cared less about 9/11. The disappearance of Chandra Levy. It was the top story, then dropped off the news completely. George Harrison's death the following November probably would have been much bigger news than it was had 9/11 not happened. It also probably would have been under more public scrutiny. He was stabbed 40 times by a home intruder the previous year, and it's been suspected that's what led to his decline in health and later his death. All of the headlines at the time just said he died of cancer, and there was little public discourse or usual celebrity gossip about it. If 9/11 didn't happen, we would all probably think there were 2 Beatles who were murdered by crazy people.